Welcome. Good evening. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining. I absolutely love running these monthly masterclasses. I started them last month and we had a really good turnout. And I think it's a really good way of connecting with people who are also on a journey. And so many of you I know in different ways through Reiki, through coaching, through different modalities that you do with me. And it's nice to bring some of you together to be able to experience this theme that we're going to be working with. So tonight's theme is intuition. I love this topic. It just lights me up to talk about intuition. But before we get into that, if you don't mind introducing yourself on the chat box, just a quick note about who you are, why you're here, and what you'd like to gain from today's session. As I say, it's going to be interactive. So that's the difference between a masterclass and just watching a webinar, for example. I could have just recorded this and sent you the video, but I want you to be part of it. So it's all about showing up, being present, and really engaging. So I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments as we go along. As I say, anything you share that's personal, it's not going to be used anywhere at all. So rest assured. You're in a safe space and everything is confidential. Make sure that you are free from distractions. This is your time, your hour that you've decided to devote to this session. So thank you, Victoria, for being the first one to write. Just a little bit about what you'd like to gain, what you're hoping to take away, perhaps what you already know about intuition. So Michelle would like some tips and reminders to enhance everyday life. Yes, exactly. Love that. And we all learn from each other. So anyone who's got anything to share, any useful tips, this is your chance to share those. So Dilpreet says that she would like to know how to know if and when your intuition is right. So that's a really, really good one. I love that. How do you know when your intuition is right? So many of us are like, I think I'm thinking the right thing, but I'm not sure. Okay, Carla says, I think I'm intuitive, but I would like to learn how to believe in what I feel. Yeah, great. Hi, Jag. If you don't mind just introducing yourself on the chat box and saying what you would like to learn from tonight's masterclass. So the focus is on intuition. The first thing I guess to say is intuition is for everyone. Often we think about intuition as something being just for clairvoyants and psychics. And I would like to just start by eliminating that myth. Intuition is for everyone. As Carla said, she thinks she is intuitive naturally. And I believe that to be true as well for her. And for myself, I remember growing up and always having a kind of premonition, if you like, or a feeling, a sixth sense, however you want to call it, about different things. I remember being as young as 9 or 10 years old and saying to my mum, oh, we haven't heard from so-and-so for a while, some relatives or something. And then that person would end up calling that evening. Or, you know, when we would be out somewhere, I would say, I think we should go left, not right. And then it ended up being the right way. So intuition is for everyone. I think that's the first thing that I want you to know. It's not just for a special few. And so I want you to think back in a time in your life where you have used your intuition. Is there a time that, like I've just given you my example, have you ever thought of somebody or something and then that's happened? I know that Jag often says when she comes to my yoga classes and my meditation, she's like, I was just thinking about that and then you said it. So that tends to happen quite a lot. Have you ever thought about a bird, for example, a robin, and then a robin shows up in the garden? So just think about that and write that down. So Craig's written, looking forward to obtaining tools on using intuition for good. Also, how to trust my gut. Love that. And we are going to be talking about the relationship between intuition and gut. So you're definitely in the right place. So the first exercise is to write down a time that you have been intuitive. Now, I'm sure there's lots of times, but just particularly if you'd like to focus on one time that you can remember that your intuition served you really well. Perhaps you were on holiday somewhere and you thought, actually, I feel like going to that place or not going to that place. So Jag's written, I'm learning to listen to intuition when there's so many options. How do I know which part of the options to choose? Yes, exactly. That's what we're going to be discussing tonight. So think about a time where your intuition has served you well. Does anyone want to share in the chat box? Because we've got so much to go through, I think we won't be able to unmute ourselves and share. So if you just write in the chat box, was there ever a time where you thought of somebody or something? Did you get a sense that somebody was unwell and then you found out they're in hospital, for example? But these are all the different words related to intuition. So sixth sense, premonition, um, gut feeling. And the reason I'm asking you to think of a specific time is because I want you to really know that all of us are intuitive, everybody, not just people that say they're clairvoyants or psychics. Perhaps they have strengthened their intuition more, but we all have the ability to be intuitive. Carla says she often thinks of her friend at times that she needs her and it's health related. Yeah, that's a very common one. You think of that somebody and then you contact them and they say, oh, how did you know? I was just thinking about you. So that's a really good one. Anyone else want to write in the chat box? What's a time where intuition has been really useful for you? And it doesn't just have to be in a good way, it can also be in a bad way. Has it protected you from something? Has it told you not to do something? And then you've ended up realizing later on that there was a reason why that happened. So Jagtrot says, listening to others to choose my uni degree and then having a breakdown when not choosing what I wanted to do. Okay, so that's really brave of you to share that. So I think what you're implying is that you chose your subject of your degree based on other people's opinions and advice, but it actually wasn't aligned with what you wanted to do. Is that right? Yeah, okay. That's really courageous actually to share that and also to admit that. So yeah, really appreciate that. And so many of us, we follow other people's opinions, don't we? And that's why I've chosen this as the theme for tonight, because we're going into the second half of the year. And I really don't want you to get to the end of the year and think, I should have done this, I should have done that. Why did I do that? Why did I do this? I want you to end the year in 6 months thinking, do you know what? I did my best. I followed my intuition. And that's what's important. So that's the next question, actually. Why is intuition important? I mean, what would happen if you don't follow your intuition? Jag's just given us a really, really good example that now she's in a situation where her career is not serving her because she did a degree that wasn't aligned with her. She took other people's advice. And so, what else is an effect of not following your intuition? If you'd like to write in the chat or write in your book. So, yeah, the most important, I would say, is you're giving your power away. You're giving your power away to other people because you're allowing other people to make your decisions on your behalf. So when I was 18, many of you know my story, I went to India by myself. And it was very hard to convince my parents to let me do that because they wanted me to go to university and follow the conventional path that everyone else was following in my culture. But my intuition was telling me to go to India, that something was there for me. And so I then had to relay that to my parents. And I did so in the way that I'm sharing with you now. I said that this is what my soul is calling me to do. And it's really amazing that they let me go. And then that kind of unfolded to the rest of my career. I ended up basing my whole career building a dance school and everything based on that one decision. So Craig said a really good point, actually. He says that by not following your intuition, it delays your path and consequently delays where you are meant to be. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So by following your intuition, let's think about it the other way, you're speeding up the process of getting to where you want to be. And you might say, well, I don't know where I want to be. Well, exactly. That's why you need to follow your intuition. So Carla's made a really good point. She says, sometimes I don't think some people are good for me and I've been proved right. Yeah, yeah. So that's your intuition telling you, actually, I'm not getting a good vibe from that person, or I don't like this place. I don't think I'm going to come back here. So that's not judgment. Judgment would be from the lower self. This is intuition is coming from the higher self. So you'll often hear me talking about lower self and higher self. And we went into it in quite a lot of detail in the last session last month. So if you would like to watch the replay, you can. But the lower self is very logical, analytical, rational, but it's also quite negative because it's there to keep you safe and it's there to exercise caution. Whereas the higher self is what is your wisdom. It's your intuition. It's your guidance. It's almost like your inner compass. So it can be described as like the sat nav for your soul, if you like. So it's so important to follow your inner guidance, especially when it comes to people and places, because we know deep down that this is not right for me. I shouldn't be here. When you were at school and you were with a group of friends and maybe they were smoking or drinking, and you kind of got this feeling that actually this is not right for me. It doesn't align with my values. It's not what I want to do. So it's so important to trust your intuition. So it builds your self-trust. So the more you follow your intuition, the more confident and self-reliant you become. And the opposite of being self-reliant is being codependent. So you don't want to be dependent on other people to make your decisions or to give you advice. Or often, I know women especially do this, like, what do you think of this? Do you think I look good in this? Do you think? And it's about how can we really tap into ourselves to be able to be really comfortable and confident in our own decisions. So Dilpreet said, sometimes it's hard to get your intuition across, especially when you're talking to elders in your family and they think they always know best or that parents know best, just like the example that I gave you, where I had to explain to my parents that another route could be more beneficial. Definitely, 100% Dilpreet. I agree with you because there's so much cultural conditioning and there's so many norms in society. And yes, there is this, misconception that if you're older, then you should know best and therefore you respect your elders. But I think there's a balance there. So it's about, yes, taking the opinion of others, listening to it, but then making your own decision. So it's about really tapping into yourself. And it's hard when you've got people around you saying, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you should do that. And I had that. I had my relatives saying to me, I don't think you should set up a dance school. It's not going to be lucrative. And I was like, yeah, but my intuition says it will be. And it's really hard in that situation. But that's why we have to develop that self-trust. So where does intuition come from? We've talked a bit about what it is, why it's important, but where does it come from? Does anyone know? Those of you that have been doing Reiki with me should know. You can point to it if you want to. Whereabouts is it in your body? Your feelings, yeah, yeah, your feelings. But remember, lower self also has feelings. So yeah, gut is one place that your intuition is comes from. Where's the other place? The place that we talk about a lot with regards to chakras. Your third eye. Yes, your third eye. That's where your intuition comes from. And somebody was asking me the other day, what does intuition feel like? And I said, it feels like a spark of energy. It feels like, you know, that moment where it's dark and then you turn on the light. That moment, that's what intuition feels like. It's like boom. And that's why we call it, "Oh, I've had a light bulb moment." That's where that comes from in our language, because your intuition feels like that. It comes from here. So yes, you get a feeling in your gut, your sacral, which is your abdomen area, whether something's good or bad. And I talked in last month's masterclass about how when something's the wrong decision, your gut and your chest will contract. So it'll go inwards. You'll hunch your shoulders and you'll start to go inwards. When it's the right decision, it will become expansive. So that's how you know with the feelings in your body whether or not something's right for me. So if you think about applying for a job, think about, okay, can I imagine myself sitting there at this desk doing that job? And then if you get this type of contracting feeling, no, it's not the right job for you. If you get like a expansive, yes, like you're lit up, then it means it's the right thing for you. So it's about really being connected to your body. So you've got to kind of tap in to be like, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it from? Does anyone have anything to share about that? Is there a time where you have felt that way? Or so Jags asked a really good question. Why does that moment sometimes last only a few seconds and then other thoughts oppose that idea? Okay, this is an amazing question. It's because that moment is your higher self. So that moment that's telling you, oh, you're supposed to be doing this, that comes, that's a light bulb, that's a spark, boom. Then the lower self, which is there to keep you safe and to keep you alive, basically, is then going to be like, yeah, but what if you start that and it doesn't work? Yeah, but I don't think there's a demand for that. Oh, no, no, that's not going to. That's the self-doubt. That's the lower voice. So how do you quieten the lower voice? We can't stop the lower voice. We can't stop it because we all have it. Two states of being. We all have it. How can we quieten the lower voice and make the higher self louder? I'm in the chat. How? Amanda says your intuition is your first thought before you start your logical thinking. Yes, amazing way of explaining it. Yes, exactly. So Craig, and no, Michelle said this actually, be calm, meditate. Yes, because when you meditate, what you're doing is you're quietening the lower mind that's always chatting. So your brain, it's like a pendulum. It's going this way and that way. It's going from past to present to future, back again. It's swaying. And the process of meditation brings it into the present. So the pendulum's still moving, but it's moving very slowly. So the slower you make it, the more your higher self is able to speak to you and to give you that guidance. And then, as Amanda says, then the logical brain will say, but what if? And by that time, you just say to it, I'm okay, don't worry, I'm going to carry on anyway. So there has been so many times in my life, my signature treatment, Reiki ritual, I decided to trademark it. My higher self said, you've got to trademark this treatment My lower self was like, who are you to trademark it? Oh my gosh, who do you think you are? It's only two words from the English dictionary been put together. And there was this battle going on. People in the Reiki industry won't like you if you do that. And my higher self was like, no, you must do it. You must do it. And so I was having this. And then I went to my husband, who's very logical, and I said to him, guess what? I've got this idea. I'm going to trademark my treatment. He was like, oh, no, no, you shouldn't do that. I don't think that's a good idea at all. And I was like, oh, no, now I've got a third voice. I don't know what to do now. And he's putting me off. He's mirroring everything my lower self was saying. So all the doubts, all the fears, all the worries, he was then saying to me out loud. And so I had to really go inwards and work with myself and go calm and go quiet. And then finally do the application, which is a really long application. And then guess what happened? It got rejected. My application got rejected. And the guy on the phone who works for the government said to me, no, no, this is not going to happen. They're two words from the English dictionary that you've just put together. They don't mean anything. I'm going to reject your application. But if you want to appeal, you can. So I had to go back inwards, really meditate, really work with myself. Again, my higher self was like, you must appeal. And my lower self was saying, who do you think you are? Haven't you got the message by now? And guess what? I appealed and I got accepted. And now Reiki Ritual is my trademarked name. And it's one of the main parts of my brand. So there's so much in that story. And the reason I share it is because A, I was listening to my higher self. B, I continued to listen. And C, I persevered. Even when the outside world was saying to me, no, my own husband was saying, don't do it. The, guy who worked at the government said, don't, no, it's not going to happen. But I continued to persevere. Why did I persevere? Because I believed. I didn't believe in myself. I believed in my idea. There's a difference. Okay. Some of you are saying, I don't believe in myself. I doubt myself. That's okay. That's okay. We all doubt ourselves. That's what the lower mind is there for. But if you believe in your idea, and someone once told me, you would never, ever be given an idea unless it was meant for you. You'd never be given an idea unless it was meant for you. So if you have an idea intuitively and you ignore it, isn't that such an insult? Isn't that so rude? If you believe in God or source or universe, and you believe that you've been given that idea from the universe to your third eye, into your soul, and you're like, no, thanks, I'm not going to go ahead with that because I don't think it's going to work. Isn't that really rude? So Victoria said, practice doing things that come from the higher self, even if the lower self is telling you otherwise. Yes, even just small things to start with to get into the vibration. Exactly. So small things like next time you go to a restaurant and you're deciding what to order, are you one of these people that are like, oh, I think I want that, but I'm not sure if I should have that? Practice tapping into your intuition in that moment. If you can't do it in that moment, if there's too much pressure because there's people around you and the waiter's waiting, do it beforehand. Check the website of the restaurant, go online, look at the menu, and just really focus on this point and be like, do I want chicken or do I want a salad? Really think about it from the third eye. So the logical brain will be like, you should have a salad because it's healthier. But your higher self knows exactly what you really want. So practice with small things. That's a really good tip, Victoria. Thank you. Dilpreet says, if you have intuition and you knew it was right, but you didn't follow the intuition, then you regret not following and you found out later that it could have worked in your favor. That's why you have to follow your higher self. Yeah. That's why people have regrets, because they didn't take that leap of faith. But imagine how I would have felt if somebody else had trademarked Reiki ritual. Wouldn't I be gutted? Wouldn't I feel like, oh, that's my idea, that's not fair? But the only difference between me and that person would be action. My book, Meditation Through Poetry, I couldn't believe it when the name was available. Like, no one in the whole world has ever written a book with this name. And I was like, wow, it seems so natural to me. And I was like, I need to quickly get my book out there. Even if my book's not 100% ready, I've got to do it, because when an idea comes, it goes into a quantum field. So it doesn't just come to you, it goes to others that are on the same vibration as you. So if you have an idea, whether it's for your personal life or your professional life, if you don't act on it, somebody else will. Same with inventions. You know, people invent things and then someone across the world is inventing the same thing, but they don't even know. It's because it went into the quantum field. So it's so important to A, listen to your intuition, and B, follow it. Really, really important. So I'll give you a couple of minutes now to make some notes. Really, and this is not just note taking for the sake of writing something. It's really reflecting on what you're taking away in your life. We've said that intuition builds self-trust. We've said that it protects you. It's your inner compass. I said it's like the sat nav of your soul. Your soul wants to live through you. That's what it's there for. Your soul is there in your body and it wants to manifest itself. It wants to show up. It wants to express itself. But the mind is not allowing it to, because the mind is being rational and logical, and all that's important, very important. But it's about finding balance. We've also said that if you ignore your intuition, it can lead to missed opportunities. You can become dependent on other people. You might follow a path that's not meant for you. So now I'd like you to write down, when was the last time that you ignored your intuition, and what was the outcome of that? And it can be something small, like, you know, you thought that you were going to go on the M4, but you didn't, and then there was roadworks, something small like that. Don't overthink it. Use your intuition to write the answer. The other thing about intuition is it's very fast, very quick. The logical brain is like, I think I'm going to write this. No, just write it. Let your pen just flow. One of the tools that I really encourage people to use is journaling. Journaling is not just note taking, it's intuitive writing, writing from that higher self. And remember, your mind has to be quiet in order to write from the higher self. So if there's chatter going on, then it's about, how do I quieten that? I don't want to stop that. I don't want to push it away. Sometimes we think, oh, just shut up, stop it. But don't do that, because that's only going to make it worse. What we want to do is really allow that to be there, but be quieter. So eventually we turn it around. So the lower self is whispering and the higher self is speaking loudly. Anyone want to write in the chat box about, when was the last time I ignored my intuition? Okay, so Jagjot had an incident where she didn't want to drive too far to get some food, so she let her husband drive, but then when she drove, she was met with an accident. Okay, sorry to hear that. Hope you're okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was a really good example actually of a time that you didn't follow your intuition. Anyone else want to share? You can think of it as like two voices in your head. The cautious voice and then the wise voice. In different religions, it's called different things: angel, devil, ego. Ego is a very common name for the lower self, and soul. Shadow self. The psychologist Carl Jung, he talked a lot about the shadow self. That's the ego mind, the lower self, and then the higher self. So there's lots of different names for the same thing. But the first thing to really identify is, where am I operating from? Where am I right now? So all of you used your higher self to be in this masterclass tonight. All of you. There are other people who wanted to be here, but they couldn't. Or they didn't. Some couldn't, some didn't. And when I say they didn't follow the higher self. They followed the lower self that said, oh no, it's at 7 o'clock, it's in the middle of dinner time. Oh no, it's a hot day. I don't want to be sitting in front of my computer for an hour, or my laptop or my phone. Oh, I don't really know about the topic. I'm not really interested in that. So some people talked themselves out of it. And all of you didn't. You were like, oh, wow, a masterclass at 3. Wow, that's good. I'm going to attend. So see the difference. Negative thinking versus positive thinking. So we've talked about this a little bit. What does intuition feel like in my body? So it's not a thinking process, it's a feeling. How does it feel? So I've already said it's expansive. It lights you up. I knew that trademarking Reiki Ritual would light me up. That was just a feeling I got. Of course I had doubts, but I did it anyway. So what else does it feel like? Would anybody like to share? Intuition will free yourself from thinking. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Thank you. So the more you tap into it and the more you listen to it, the more you strengthen it. It's a bit like a muscle. The more you use it, the more you'll start to believe it. But the biggest thing that I hear people say is, I don't know which voice is talking to me. And that's why I want you to tap into, how does it feel in your body? So, Michelle, did you? Yeah, you've written that. Inner peace, positive spark feels right. Exactly. Yes. Beautifully worded there. It will give you a sense of inner peace. And there's a positive spark. I love that word spark, because that's what it is. It's like a current. It just comes, and you'll feel it here. Now that we've talked about it, you'll become more aware over the next few days, especially if you are actively working on opening your third eye. And there are ways that you can open your third eye. We'll talk about that in a bit. So Amanda said, feeling compelled to do something, feeling like I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. There's a feeling that, yes, I'm doing the right thing. Yeah, definitely. What else? Feeling inspired and excited to take action. Yeah, there's an excitement. Like, butterflies are often misunderstood. It's like, I've got butterflies in my tummy. Is that a good sign or is that a bad sign? Again, there's two types of butterflies. There's the contracting type that's like a knot. It's like a knot in your stomach, and it's like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Or there's that like fluttery type. That's what we want. We want that type, that excitement, that nervousness. Of course, you're nervous doing something unknown, it's unfamiliar, but there's a excitement, there's a jittery feeling, a buzz. Yeah, that's the right word, Amanda. Buzz. Exactly. Love that. So now the next question is, what's one area of your life that you need to trust yourself more? Somebody was coming to me for Reiki, and I asked her what one of her tangible outcomes was going to be. And interestingly, she said, I want to cook a variety of dishes because make sure everybody's on mute. Jessie, just make sure you're on mute. So she said, I want to cook a variety of dishes because I'm always cooking the same thing. And I was like, that's interesting. You're coming to Reiki, so you can cook a variety of dishes. I thought she would have gone to like a cookery course. But actually, what happened was we worked on opening her third eye. So she was able to make decisions. And then now she said, every evening I make a different dish. Even if I've never made it before, I just try something new. I don't even have to follow a recipe because I just trust myself now that I wouldn't have had that idea unless it was meant for me. So now her husband's really happy because she cooks a variety of different foods as a result of her Reiki sessions. So that was an interesting one. So, what area of your life would you like to be more intuitive? Is it in your business, your work, your family, your relationship? Be specific. Which area? And what do you mean? Like that lady was very specific. So work, yeah. That's a very common one, isn't it? People want to be more intuitive at work. It makes the day go faster when you're intuitive because you're in that state of flow. When you're intuitive, you're in flow. When you're in your lower self, that's when you're feeling like this stop, start, jerkiness, this unease, this sort of feeling restless. That's all because you're in your lower self. So, Yana, is that how you pronounce your name? Organization of my day. I love that. That's so good. So she would like to be intuitive in organizing her day. So I guess that means being more spontaneous. That's the way that I'm taking it. Is that what you mean? To be more like go with the flow of the day. If you feel like going for a walk, go for a walk. If you feel like making pasta, make pasta. Like going with what you feel like doing, not what you think you should be doing. Craig says he would like to trust himself to be a better salesman for his practice. Yes. So when you trust yourself and you're intuitive, you're in a state of flow. So then when you're on a sales call with somebody, it's not hard work. There's just this ease. And that other person feels that ease as well. And because you're relaxed within yourself, the other person feels relaxed. And it makes the sale so much easier. Try that next time. Like now, I'm really relaxed within myself. I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'm having fun. I don't feel like I'm working, I'm just being me. And so I trust that all of you are feeling comfortable in my presence. And so that's really key when it comes to doing something like sales or having your own business. Okay. Amanda says she would like to be more intuitive in her relationship and also decision making in her personal life. Yeah. So relationships are really good one. So it's like, what does my partner need from me right now? How can I tap into what he or she needs rather than always thinking about what we need? How can we think about what are their needs? maybe with your children, like, what do they need from me? How can I be more intuitive with them? Victoria would like to be more intuitive in her work and career path, learning to trust herself to make the first steps without needing to know the whole journey. Yes, I love that. That was a post actually I wrote the other day. I put, just know the first step, not the next 10 steps. When we think about finding our career path, often we want to know, we want to have it all laid out, don't we? But it doesn't work like that. You know, it's not a path that's straightforward and it's not linear. And so it's so important to just go one step at a time and just trust the process. That I love that. Carla, making better use of free time and not giving in to other pressures. Yes, boundaries, such a good one. Setting yourself boundaries and saying, well, you've done it tonight. You've said to whoever you live with, from 7 to 8, I'm going to be in a meeting, therefore I'm not available. So you've already started doing that. Jagjot would like to trust her abilities, and she says, who I am is enough to take the first step. And then you start doubting yourself. So very similar to Victoria. So it's having that confidence and courage, I would say, to take the first step. Trusting that that first step came from the higher self. If you're not sure where it came from, then that might cause confusion. And how do you know? We've already said, calm the mind, quieten down the mind, meditation, deep breathing, being in nature, listening to music, journaling. These are all ways that you quieten down the lower mind. And then when the higher mind speaks to you, it comes out crystal clear. Another way is to use essential oils. So if you've got an oil, you can put on 2 fingers and rotate around your third eye in a clockwise motion. This is something that I do with my Reiki clients, and it's really powerful because what it does is the oil has medicinal properties. So if it's a good quality oil, then you're getting all of those therapeutic benefits. And then you're using touch, and then you're rotating. You can also do tapping. Have you heard of EFT tapping? That's another modality. So people do this. So every morning when I wake up, this is the first thing I do. I do deep breathing, meditation. I put this on my fingers and I do this. And then I'm able to be really alert, very sharp, and make really good decisions throughout the day. Like today, I did 3 Reiki treatments. I'm not tired at all. I'm really alert and sharp. It's because my third eye is open. So I use doTERRA. I'll write it in the chat box. It's quite expensive because it's a very pure, good quality oil, but you can use any brand. I mean, the better quality, the better, because you get more benefits from it. And this one is called Balance. So there's different blends that you can get. So that's another way of working on your third eye. Any other ways that you can think of? Yeah, daily stillness. Yeah, being still. We're so used to just moving and being busy, aren't we? Some of us don't even know how to be still. We get restless when we're still. And watching TV is not stillness because we're taking in what we're watching. So we're being stimulated. And if you're watching something that's perhaps got violence or negativity, you're picking up on that, even on a subconscious level. That's why they say before you go to bed, you shouldn't watch TV for at least, I think, an hour or 2 hours. That's the reason. Being in nature is another good one. So Dilpreet says, sometimes I'm more intuitive for others, like they might need this, they might need that. Yes. They might want this. I feel like they need some support, but they are not intuitive for me because they might think she's got it all handled, especially being the eldest daughter. Yes, I get that. And many people say that, Amanda says, my yoga classes help her become more intuitive. Yeah, many people say that they are intuitive for other people, like they get really good ideas for others and they can see other people's direction very clearly, but they can't see their own. And that comes down to self-trust, so self-doubt. And self-doubt comes from the solar plexus chakra, which is just the upper abdomen. Self-doubt, lack of confidence, not believing in yourself. So now we're going to start to wrap up. So what are your key takeaways from today about how to become more intuitive? Remember, intuition speaks softly. It's almost a whisper. So in order to listen to that whisper, everything else has to be quiet. I don't mean everybody in the house has to be quiet. I mean, everything within you has to be quiet. So the noise, so for example, with social media, if you find it quite triggering, then you may wish to limit the time that you're on it. If you're constantly being stimulated or overthinking, then try breath work. Like once an hour, you may wish to meditate for a minute. You can set reminders in your phone actually every hour, just for 1 minute, just sit and be still. You know, like we do a 1 minute silence. It's similar to that. It's just being. Some of us have forgotten how to be. We're always doing and we're always thinking. So, so yeah, be calm, be open and listen. Yes, love that. Slow down and tune in to yourself. Yeah. Journal. Yes, make sure you're journaling. Remember, when you are journaling, you're journaling from the higher self, not the lower self. If you're finding yourself worrying about your spelling and grammar, that means it's the lower self. The higher self does not care. It's all about wisdom. Not doing, just being, trusting yourself. And Victoria says, for me, it's about becoming more mindful of my intuition and more intentional about tapping into it during the day rather than just letting outside noise dictate the day. Yes. So many people say to me, I meditate every morning for 10 minutes and then the rest of the day I'm just my normal self. And it's like, well, that's really good. But what we want to do is we want to integrate that into your day. So the outcome of meditation is mindfulness. So if you're meditating for 10 minutes in the morning, that's fantastic. But then throughout the day, we want those moments of mindfulness. So when you're working, when you're walking, when you're eating, when you're driving, being mindful, that's really important. Jagjot says positive affirmations to assist the higher self. Yes. Can you give me an example of an affirmation that helps with self-encouragement? So Amanda says, I'm guilty of seeking others' opinions. I need to trust my gut more. Yeah, many of us, we're giving our power away. I can do it. Yeah, love that. So simple, but so powerful at the same time. Listen to your body, pay attention to your feelings. Notice any tension in your body, any stress. Integrate daily mindfulness into your routine. Observe your thoughts without judgment. So start to become, we've mentioned that there are two states of being, lower self and higher self, but now I want to introduce a third state, a neutral self. And that neutral self is almost like an observer, stepping away and looking at both of these states and thinking, okay, which one is operating from which place right now? Noticing synchronicities or patterns, that's a really good one. So when you become more intuitive, you start to notice that things just start happening. The right people get introduced to the right, everything just starts falling into place. Michelle says, I downloaded positive affirmations before a presentation at work, which helped. That's brilliant. So good. Yeah, before you deliver any presentation, before you go into any meeting, do deep breathing, do meditation and do positive affirmations. Yes. Keep an intuitive journal. So just like we did today, we wrote down times in our lives where we've been intuitive, where we haven't been intuitive. Keep a journal. So when something happens, like for example, you think of somebody and they phone, write that down so you remember. That's another good thing to do. And that builds your own trust. And finally, learn to make your own decisions without consulting others, even if you make a mistake. Trust yourself. This is your journey. You know what's best for yourself. And, you know, we often talk about when we do healing, we talk about going from a wounded child to an empowered adult. And a lot of us do this inner child healing work because we're still operating from those childhood wounds like rejection and abandonment and things that were unfulfilled as children. And some of us, we still have those traits that come out as adults. And that's why it's so important to do inner child healing. I actually have a meditation on YouTube and I get very good feedback from it. People say that it's one of my best meditations. So I'd love to share the link with you if you think that's something that you need to do for yourself. Another way of connecting to your intuition is through music. If any of you play an instrument, that's a really good way of becoming mindful. When you're playing piano or guitar or anything like that, there's no way that your brain can think about anything else. Same with dancing. When I dance, I'm just in the moment. My mind is not wandering here and there. I'm just very present. Same in yoga. So it's always about checking in with yourself. Discipline to sit and quieten the mind so that I can learn to trust myself and listen to intuition. Beautiful. Love that. Thank you. So to finish, we're going to do a very short guided meditation. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable wherever you're sitting, in the chair, have your back against the seat, really roll your shoulders up and back. You can lower your eyes or you can close them. And the first thing that we do before we begin any meditation is to focus on our breath. The breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. So whenever you breathe and you become an observer of your breath, everything else starts to slow down. Any racing thoughts that you've had start to drift off into the distance. You may wish to count the breath, 4 in and 4 out. You might want to listen to the sound of the breath. As you turn your attention inwards. So a lot has been discussed, shared, and explored. And now I'd just like you to integrate all of those lessons and just be with them. Allow them to land. Perhaps you heard things that were completely new. Maybe it was just reaffirming what you already knew. Just trusting yourself that you're in the right place at the right time. And as you tap in to the knowledge and the wisdom of your higher self, you become reminded of who you really are, behind the roles that you play and the responsibilities that you hold, behind the masks that you wear and behind the labels that you associate with. This is the real you. You are intuitive. You are wise. You are intuitive and you are wise. Trusting yourself, believing in yourself, accepting yourself, trusting yourself, believing in yourself, and accepting yourself. And then bringing your attention back before rubbing your palms together, massaging them over your eyes, gently tapping your face, your forehead, your cheek. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you. If you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share, feel free to do so on the chat. Otherwise, I'd like to sincerely thank you for spending this time with me. I really hope that you found it beneficial. Please continue to use the courses in my membership. It's really, I've put a lot of love into preparing them and putting them out there. So I really want people to benefit from them. So do make the most of it whenever you have free time. And I shall see you again next month for our next masterclass. Thank you. Good night. Namaste.